So in problem 17-3, we're still doing activity-based costing. But unlike problem 17-1 that we did, so we applied ABC costing to a process cost system. And so this, we're going to take job costing and apply ABC costing. So here we have Craft Pro Machining produces machine tools for the construction industry. And so it gives us details about their overhead cost. And so they have different activities they've identified. So they identified grinding, polishing, product modifications, providing power, system calibration. Then it tells us, what kind of costs are involved. It also tells us what drives each one of these. And so for grinding, what makes grinding costs go up is the more machine hours. And it tells us how many machine hours we have. So polishing is also machine hours. And so when it says 13,000 here, so that's 13,000 total machine hours used. So there's 13,000 total, not 26. So just to make it kind of clarify that a little bit. Product modification is driven by engineering hours, and there's 1,500. Providing power is driven by direct labor hours, and then system calibration is driven by the number of batches done. So, let's see, then it gives us some other information here. So we have two different jobs, and it gives the information that goes into each one of those jobs. So the first thing it asks us to do is to classify each activity at a unit level, batch level, or product or facility level. And so it's like, what level are these costs being incurred? And so for grinding and polishing, those are incurred at the unit level. So when we're making these individual units, that's what's causing the grinding and polishing cost. Now, product modifications, that's more like a designing and engineering deal. So that's not a per unit deal. That's a per product deal as they're designing these. Providing power, so that's going to be the whole facility itself is where that's going to come into play. And then a system calibration, that's going to be calibrated per batch. So that's going to be on a batch level. So for part 2, it says compute the activity overhead rates using ABC. Form cost pools as appropriate. So it's identified 5 different activities. And so if we look at what the drivers are here, so there's actually 4 different drivers because grinding and polishing both are driven by machine hours. So we're going to have grinding and polishing be an activity, product modification, providing power, and system calibration. So we want to compute kind of a dollars per whatever their driver is. So for grinding and polishing, that's machine hours. So we'll take the cost, so the cost of grinding, so 320 plus 135, divided by the number of machine hours, which is just 13 here. So 320. So we have $35 per machine hour. Product modification, there's 600,000 divided by engineering hours. And then providing power was 255,000 divided by our total direct labor hours, 17,000. So we have $15 per direct labor hour. And system calibration, 500,000 divided by 400 batches, so 1,250. So what we're going to do is, as these jobs, we're going to track the number of machine hours that each one of these jobs does, and then we'll multiply that times our driver to get our overhead applied to that job. So down in part 3, so grinding and polishing, so that's driven by machine hours. There was 550 machine hours at a rate of $35 per machine hour. for product modification, it involved 26 engineering hours, and that's $400 per engineering hour. Providing power, they used 500 direct labor hours at $15. And then our system calibration, they did 30 batches at a cost of $12.50 per batch. So the overhead applied to job 3175 is going to be $74,650. So we go through and do the exact same thing for the other job. So the overhead applied to job 4286 is going to be $383,000. So in part 4, it says, what is the overhead cost per unit for job 3175 and the overhead cost per unit for 4286? So the total job cost for job 3175 calculated here. And so the total number of units in the job gives us right here at 200 and 2,500. So for cost per unit, we got $373.25 for this job and $153 for job 4286. And so that's based on ABC costing. So what if we were to look at that and compare that to a plant-wide rate and see what we come up with? So for the plant-wide rate, we're just going to lump all of our overhead costs together. So we got 320,000, 135,000, 600,000, 255, and 500. So total overhead cost 1.8 million. We're just going to treat it all like the same cost, and we're just going to divide it based on direct labor hours, and so that gave us at 17,000. So that would give us an overhead rate of $106.47. I guess we better round it just to make Connect happy. So we'll do round. And so if we're going to apply this simple plant-wide rate of 106.47 based on direct labor hours, so job 3175 had 500 direct labor hours. And job 4286 had 43,075. And then divide that by number of units. So we had 200 for the first job, 2,500 for the second. So if we were to use a plant-wide rate, we'd have a lot lower per unit cost than what we do if we have ABC costing. So if we were to just use a plant-wide rate, we would under-apply the cost to this job and over-apply the cost to this job. And so as we're pricing and deciding what jobs to accept, what jobs to not, so it's important to know, hey, what's our real cost of doing this? We don't want to, potentially underbid, this job, because we're not going to figure out the cost and then bill the customer. We're going to say, hey, this is how much, this is the price it's going to be. And so if we underestimate our costs, we're going to have to eat that. And so as we're calculating this, we really need to know what the true cost of this job is. So